The answer is because I made a mistake. And if I ever write a follow-up to this, this is called the whites, so maybe I'll write the oranges. It'll just be me, you know. Hardly knew you, Harry. This, by the way, I'm much more youthful and lively than I look right now. This is like my 6th book, so if it's Tuesday, it must be wherever I am. So, I mean, but I'm, you know, thank God for Adderall, you know.
You have some Adderall?
We can talk later. Just right now I need one about as big as a pie tin. No, I'm good. So, I want to read something. Usually I've been reading like sort of like easy bites, independent small sections of about 3 minutes each. Tonight I'm going to try to read like 3 continuous narrative sections, and it's going to need a little bit of a setup. The title of Whites refers to detectives who are retired who became obsessed with one sociopath who did some awful shit on their watch and walked away. And these detectives take this guy in their head into retirement. They can't let up. They become like Ahabs. And there's 5 guys. And the main character, Billy Graves, is the only guy who's still on the job, but he's reaching his dotage. He's 42. Oh, God, I wish I was 42. His particular white is a guy named Curtis Taft. And what Curtis Taft had done was he was going out with a woman named Tanya Howard. And Tanya Howard dumped him. And he got pissed. And about a month after she dumped him, he had a new girlfriend. He just got up one morning, walked over to her apartment in the projects, and about 6 in the morning had a gun, shot her in the head. Her 14-year-old niece was sleeping over that night, shot her in the head, and Tanya Howard's 4-year-old daughter was there that night, and he shot her. He was a triple murder of 3 young women, and everybody knew he did it, and it was Billy's case, and everybody was too frightened of this guy to say, yeah, I saw him walk in, yeah, I saw him walk out. And the guy was never even arrested. And like most of the whites, they know the detectives are trying to get them, and they get off on that. That the detectives are the ones that are banging their heads into the walls while they're going to Yankee games and making babies. So this is the conversation that Billy is having with one of his retired friends, Jimmy Whalen. Jimmy's got his own white. And Billy's talking about, out of his desperation, trying to nail Curtis Taft, what he had done one evening. This is Billy's voice. Can I tell you something? You talk about exorcisms. I never told this to anybody before because it embarrassed me. But about 6 months into trying to nail Curtis Taft, my wife convinced me to consult a psychic. Some old Italian lady upstate. I mean, I was so desperate at that point. So I called her up, go to her house. I swear she looked just like Casey Stengel. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for seeing me. I walk into the living room. The walls are covered with appreciation letters from different police departments around the country. Maybe a few from Canada, another from some town in Germany. It was pretty impressive until you go up close and read one. It has come to my attention. Oh Christ, this is not going to work. It has come to my attention that you might possibly have been of some assistance in the as yet unsolved homicide death of fill in the blank. Thank you for your time and enthusiasm. Sincerely, Elmo Butkus, Chief of Police, French Kiss, Indiana. But whatever, I'm there. I sit on the couch, she's in a rocking chair. I was told to bring some objects belonging to the victims. So I hand over a barrette belonging to the 4-year-old, a scarf from the 14-year-old, and Tanya Howard's Bible. I tell the psychic what we think happened. Taft coming in there around sunrise, 3 shots and just walking out, going home, getting back in bed with his still asleep girlfriend. She says to me, Okay, here's how it works. I'm gonna sit here, and I'm gonna think about what you just told me. I'm gonna get a little worked up, and I'll say things, a word, a phrase, and you write everything down. Whatever I say, I'm sorry, I always screw this line. I'm gonna get a little worked up, and I'll say things, a word, a phrase, and you write everything down, whatever I say. And then she says, now the things I'll be saying, I don't know what any of it means. They're like pieces of a puzzle that you gotta put together, okay? You're the detective, not me, okay? Okay. And oh wait, she says, by the way, I never charge cops for helping them. That's my civic duty. All I ask in return is a letter from you on your police department stationery thanking me for my assistance. I said, yeah, sure, no problem, let's go. And then she starts rocking in the chair, rubbing the little kid's beret, and lets it rip. 4 years old, that poor little kid. She never had a chance. She'll never see her mother again or play jump rope, that evil cocksucker, that fucking butter. I almost jumped out the window, she shouted it so loud. But I write it down, butter. Then she's off again. What kind of cold-blooded scumbag would take the life of running water? Okay, writing it down, running water. I mean, everything in the world is near running water. A river, a sink, a toilet. I mean, a river, a sink, a sewer. I mean, are you serious? Then she starts going on about the teenager. 14-year-old girl, her whole fucking life in front of her. This vicious pig, this miserable piece of shit, this tires. Okay, right down tires. His cars are everywhere. He stuffs the life out of 3 young ladies, and then what does he do? He goes home and crawls back in bed with his new girlfriend like he just got up to take a piss. And can you imagine what a piece of work that stupid bitch? Broken toilet! And I swear my child's eyes, when she said that, broken toilet, I just about crapped myself. Oh yeah? Listen to me. The bodies were discovered by Tanya Howard's new boyfriend when he came to the house after work about 5-6 hours later. By the time we got there, Rigger was going pretty good. We found the 14-year-old and Tanya in the living room. We thought that was it. But when I opened the bathroom door, Billy wiped his dry mouth. See, when Curtis Taft lived with Tanya, whenever he would discipline her 4-year-old, he'd always take her into the bathroom. And that's where he took her to shoot her that morning. And after he shot her, he stuck her head and shoulders in the toilet. Like I said, rigor had set in. We couldn't get her out, so we had to use a sledgehammer to shatter the porcelain. So, broken toilet, the lady says. Don't ask me how. Then what happened? I brought her back to the projects and let her into the apartment, see if she could maybe pick something up in the air. Did she? Nope. What did she say when she saw the broken toilet? Just nodded like, I told you so. She got you on the running water too, Jimmy said, if you want to get technical about it. Yeah, 2, I guess. You writed that letter? I'm working on it. So, now, never met a dog here I couldn't find. I could ever find. So, okay, so we know his obsession with this guy, Curtis Taft. And the next day he gets a call from a woman named Stacy, who used to be a journalist. And her career was destroyed because at one point he had, Billy, when he was in anti-crime, shot a guy who was, charging at him with a pipe, and the bullet passed through the guy and hit a 10-year-old kid. But it was a justified shoot. But rumor went around that Billy was high on cocaine that day, and that changes the whole story. Now, she was a young up-and-coming journalist, and she got wind of this cocaine story, and she was so eager to make a headline that she didn't vet her sources. And it turns out her sources, she lied to her editor, and it turns out she told them, yeah, this is rock solid, and of course they weren't able to find anybody, and the story was debunked, and she was destroyed. Over the years, like 10 years later, Billy reached out to her to be friends, even though she tried to make her career on his broken back. And she's a private eye now, and occasionally they get together, but Billy's always nervous when she says, I gotta tell you something, because it's always bad news. When Billy finally got it up to enter the diner, he spotted Stacy Taylor at once, sitting at a booth in the back. She was north of 40 now, too thin, too much wine, too much late-night TV. paradiddling an unlit cigarette against the formica and reading the paper that had shit-canned her 18 years ago for getting it all wrong about Billy and the shooting. She was wearing a ribbed turtleneck that made her look even bonier than she was and accentuated her slightly scoliotic posture. Her hair, a blonde so ashy that it was impossible to tell how gray it might be turning, was pulled back in a short rubber band-bound ponytail, and her watchful eyes were, as always, a little too quick, as if she were jonesing for something she couldn't have. She'd been a golden girl once, and she took her tumble hard. "Hey, how's it going?" Billy said as he took a seat. "The meat's so tough that I got up off the plate and beat the shit out of the coffee when it's too weak to defend itself," Stacy said. "No kidding." That's my wife. I'm trying to see if she's too weak to defend itself. "No kidding," Billy said. "The PI business sucks. I hate the people who hire me and I hate the people they want found." "I hear you. Never serve a subpoena on a guy holding a pan of bacon. I put up my arm to protect my face and ruined a perfectly good North Face coat." "Good thing it was a cold day," Billy said mildly, then wanting her to get to it. "So, I'm back to writing," Stacy said. "For money?" "Not much, but you bet." "Good for you." Billy realizing this is going to take a while. "I'm writing an online sex column." "What?" "For this e-zine, Matterhorn." "What's an e-zine?" "Don't worry about it. My nom de plume is Lance Driver." "A guy?" "A guy advising other guys," Stacy said. "Wow, that's, yesterday I advised some moke that if your girlfriend wants to stick a finger up your ass, it doesn't mean she thinks you're a fag." "No? It means she's curious. She wants to know your body." "Okay," Billy said. "How far up?" Stacy finally lit her cigarette, took a quick drag, and put it out before they could arrest her. "I draw the line at the first knuckle." "Okay," shifting in his seat. "So what did you want to talk to me about?" "I have a new boyfriend." "Oh yeah?" "I'm 45 and I have a boyfriend. He's 57 and he has a girlfriend. I mean, what the fuck, right?" Whatever it was that she had to share with him, it was making her very nervous. Although calling Stacy nervous was like calling water wet. When she was in a state like this, it was almost cruel to rush her. "The boyfriend," Billy said. "What's he do?" "He edits Matterhorn." "He's good to you?" "It's a very considerate question." "Yes? No?" Stacy looked off. "He's no stranger to the vine." "How much?" 2 bottles, maybe a little more. He's a sweet drunk, but it's like talking to a small child towards the end of the evening." "Did you try AA?" "I can't even get him to AAA." "He'll lose you. He'll die is what he'll do," Stacy said. "Well, then threaten to walk out." "I don't want to." "Threaten?" Billy asked. "Walk out. I haven't had a boyfriend in 8 years. I like hearing about what I look like again. I like being spooned." "Sounds like a problem there, Stace." The waiter finally came over, the guy sporting a reddish-gray comb-over and an apron up to his sternum. "Try the grape jelly omelet," Stacy coughed. "It's excellent." "Just coffee," Billy said, then turning back to her. "Not that I don't enjoy seeing you, but why am I here?" "Are you ready for this?" Stacy said. Billy waited. "You remember Memory Williams had this twin sister?" Memory Williams is the 14-year-old girl that Curtis Taft murdered. "You remember Memory Williams had this twin sister?" "Shakira, right?" Billy took one of Stacy's cigarettes. This couldn't be good. "Shakira Barker," Stacy said. "How twins can have different last names I'll never understand." Billy envisioned that couch in the living room again. Memory's 14-year-old head in Tanya Howard's lap, the entry wound above her right eye like an erupted raspberry. "Yes, I heard Shakira was doing better," Billy said hopelessly, taking one of those mothering classes from the Children's Initiative. "Yeah, well," Stacy took a breath. "Not no more." Billy just stared at her. "This is why I never want to meet you," he's thinking. "This is why what happened." At the end of Stacy's tale, Billy was staring at his ashy coffee, his jaw askew with fury. "I need you to find someone for me," he said. "I thought you would." Stacy slid a single sheet of paper across the table. "Got the horse right here." Billy speed scanned the document and learned that Curtis Taft was still working for the same security outfit that had employed him at the time of the triple homicide and was now living in Co-op City in the Bronx. Although the place to find him this week was neither work nor home, but at Columbia Presbyterian, where he was recovering from surgery on a perforated ulcer. "I thank you for this," he said, holding up the sheet. Stacy shrugged and looked away, Billy sensing the mortification that still coursed through her veins over the long-ago debacle that had ended her career. "Seriously," Billy said, his own mortification equal to hers, given that she'd been right all along about him. When he had fired the shot that killed a man and then entered the groin of a 10-year-old boy who had been standing behind him, he was coked to the gills. All his squad were that night, a fact that they would keep to themselves until the day they died. So now he's going to go over to the hospital and meet his nemesis, Curtis Taft. And he's walking into the room, he's just zipping the curtain open, and there's this big whale. "So, Mr. Taft, how are we feeling today?" Billy's voice burbling with rage-induced pep as he whipped back the curtain that curved around the hospital bed. The sight of his white made Billy tingle with a rush of dazed energy, made his eyes brim with light. "Ah, you again," Curtis Taft moaned, rolling his fleshy head away. Billy couldn't believe it. The guy had nearly doubled in size since the homicides, his torso so inflated that his arms looked like flippers. Taft attempted to reach across himself in order to press his call button, but Billy grabbed his wrist. "Perforated ulcer, huh? Goddamn, from what I hear, you can get that from smoking. But you smoking? Shit, you don't even eat off plastic as far as I remember, right? Everything had to be in stone bowls, incense all over the place. A real my body is my temple type individual. So my theory is," poking the soft-mounted dressing across Taft's belly, "this right here, I just thinks it's Tanya and those kids in there getting to work on you." "I don't know what you're talking about, Graves. Get the fuck out of here." He reached for the call button again, Billy this time yanking out of the wall. "What's going on over there?" the old guy on the other side of the curtain called out, in the other bed. Billy stepped over and raised the volume on the old guy's ceiling suspended TV. "So," flopping down on the side of Taft's bed, "you hear what happened to Memory Williams' twin sister, Shakira?" "Who's Memory?" Taft said, then barking to his roommate. "Yo, call the nurse station." "Oh, come on, you gotta remember Shakira. Real wallflower type. Well, that wallflower just killed a 16-year-old girl last week. Stabbed her through the lungs with a bread knife over in Jersey City. Can you believe that? She's in Hudson County Correctional Center right now, but she'll wind up in Clinton Correctional Institute for child-eating psycho bitches. That is, if they aren't full up, in which case they'll put her in Bellhaven, that temporary women's ring that got out there in Sparta. But the ACLU is trying to get that shut down because of the rapes. We'll see. I don't know no Shakira nobody." Then attempting to sit up, barking, "I told you to call the fucking nurse." Billy shoved him back down, Taft grimacing through his close-cropped beard. Now Memory was a handful, no doubt. Fighting in the cafeteria, cutting school, running away from home, always with a boy. But her sister Shakira, she was no trouble to anybody. 14 years old, never been kissed. Had all the answers in class, but too shy to raise her hand. But as soon as you killed her sister, I didn't kill nobody, and you know it. As soon as you killed her twin sister, all of a sudden she starts banging with the black Barbies, gets caught with a razor in her mouth going through the metal detectors, threw a chair at the teacher, another one out the school window. They finally send it to a social worker. The lady says to Shakira, "What happened to you?" You know what she said back? "Well, somebody's got to be my sister." Graves, you just pissed off because you ain't police enough to catch a fucking cold. Cops like you just grab the first nigga you see and hope for the best. Well, it didn't work out so well, did it? Anyways, Curtis, that was 5 years ago. And now Shakira's a 19-year-old murderess with 2 babies on her own, and she is fucked as fuck gets. It would probably have been better if she was in the apartment that morning and you put a bullet in her head, too. Because this is going to be one slow-motion death she's facing in there. So as far as I'm concerned, they're all in there, poking his sutured gut again. All those angry females chewing you up from the inside out. And when they finally cut you open to see what killed your ass, you know what they're going to find? Teeth marks, motherfucker. Nothing but teeth marks. "You stop that bullshit right now," Taft said more quietly, his eyes going a little bit wide. "Tell me you don't feel them," Billy pressed. "Look at me and tell me you don't feel them in there." Gingerly touching his gut as if something might pop out, he looked at Billy full on, no resistance. After all these years, he had Curtis Taft with no resistance. Billy's heart slamming as he scrambled to seize the moment. "You were raised in the church, right, Curtis? I remember interviewing your sister. She said you all were." "So?" Taft said carefully. "So you believe in God?" "Who don't believe in God?" Know your Bible? Some, Taft said, still palming his gut. Remember you, Luke? Jesus coming on a man had so many demons inside him that when he asked for his name, remember what the man answered? Legion, Taft said, eyes unblinking. Legion, that's right, Legion, a whole fucking battalion, and that's what you're dealing with too. Taft removed his hands from his belly, placed it flat on the bed, and went still. Now you know and I know that the only way to get those angry bitches out of you before they can finish what they started is for you to make a clean breast of it and say what happened that day. Say it now, say it to me, and they will be gone before you know it. Taft kept staring at him, his mouth slowly going as round as a donut, just staring and staring until he apparently saw what he wanted to see in Billy's eyes, that small, quivering hope. Graves, his voice abruptly all the way back, I got a better chance at cleaning you out in court for harassment than you got to give me a motherfucking parking ticket. Where's the goddamn nurse? Billy yanked the pillow from under Taft's head and held it an inch from his face. You know how easy it would be to punch your ticket right now? But they know you're here, Taft said, shoving the pillow away with surprising strength for a man fresh out of surgery. So what are you going to do, huh? This is a public building. You're going to kill me? Kill that man in the other bed too? What are you going to do? Fuck you. Hi there, everything okay? The nurse in the doorway sounded cheerful but in charge. Now, he's just upset over me being like this, Taft said. You'll be fine, she said. No one's fool. Are you just about done here, sir? I think your friend needs his rest, Billy finished for her. Then leaning over Taft, as if to say goodbye, he whispered, you will never get rid of me, and walked out of the room. I just got one short thing, and god damn if I can't find it. Just, discuss among yourselves. Rhode Island, it's not a road, it's not an island. Okay, alright. Now this is Billy and his wife Carmen, and Carmen is an ER nurse, and she's a little hot all the time. I mean, just, edgy. And they have to go into school because their 8-year-old Declan punched a kid. And they got to talk to the school therapist. It should have been funny, Billy thought, but it wasn't. Anytime you get called in to see the school therapist about your child, funny is the last thing on your mind. But still. The day before, Declan had apparently pushed a kid who had been taunting him face first into the edge of an open locker door. The injury was minimal. They were 8-year-olds after all. But there was a little blood and a broken pair of glasses. And so now, he and Carmen were seated in an empty classroom, talking to a young man who couldn't have been more than a year or two out of school himself, asking whether Declan's birth had been a difficult one, whether they employed any physical form of discipline at home, whether there was any history on either side of the family of, how about we just get Declan to apologize to the kid and we pay for the glasses? Billy amiably cut him off. Those would be appropriate gestures, no doubt, but I think no. Carmen's sharp voice sounding like a command to a wolf as she thrust herself forward in her chair. Where the hell do you get off asking me about giving birth to him? How dare you ask us if we smack our kids around, if we have crazies in our family? I am a nurse. I am a healer. My husband is a New York City detective. He protects people. This is who we are, and this is what we can't do today because we're stuck having this time suck of a talk with you. Carmen, Billy said uselessly. And no, my son isn't going to apologize to that little shit. And no, we're not going to pay for those goddamn glasses. But you know who should? You and this whole freaking school, because what happened yesterday is all your fault. You put on this stupid, boring show about the planets. All these poor kids dressed up like silver foil meatballs. Hello, I am Mercury. Hello, I am Saturn. And you know, one poor kid has to come out and say, hello, I am Uranus. Jesus Christ, you're a shrink. Do you know how humiliating that is? And of course he's going to get teased and teased. And if he's got any heart to him, like my son has at some point, he's going to push back, and he's going to push back hard. The therapist, more bemused than intimidated, looked down at his notepad, reached for his pen, then thought better of it. And if few people try to suspend him, or even so much as lift a finger to discipline him, we're going to go first to a lawyer and then to the papers. And how stupid will your science teachers look when the story gets out? Don't they watch the news? Uranus isn't even a planet anymore. With that, she got up and walked out, leaving Billy to placate. I didn't actually see the play, Billy said mildly, which has kind of got a point. When Billy caught up to her in the school lot, he expected her to still be steaming, but instead she was close to tears. Tell me I didn't just fuck up, she pleaded, grabbing Billy's hand. I just get so scared for them, you know? Tell me I didn't just fuck up. Thank you. That was probably about the most four-letter words that were ever uttered in this book. So, oh yeah, questions? Yes?
Your writing is so vivid, but the beauty of your language comes through really in your dialogue. I was thrilled to see your name in a movie preview the other day. You've written the script, I guess, for Child 44.
I did, yeah.
And I wonder if you find that your facility with writing scripts translates into your facility for books, or is it the other way around, which is chicken and egg?
There's no chicken and no egg. Dialogue in a book can be scintillating, but you take the best literary dialogue writers, and you take two actors, and they have to say everything the characters in the book say, and it just sounds like, when are they going to shut up? And in a movie, everybody gets excited because you write great dialogue, but dialogue is the least of it. Any actor can take garbage dialogue and make it good. You know, he'll change it, he'll improvise it until it sounds right. Spoken dialogue is not the same as written dialogue. I remember, so there is no, I mean, the most important thing in a screenplay is structure. You know, and I don't mean like take some 3-day crash screenwriting course and learn all about it. That's crap too. But it's just, you gotta shape this story. You know, I always say you got 4 characters, and they got 2 hours. And at the base of a pyramid, in 2 hours you all gotta reach the tip of the pyramid. And that's your job as a screenwriter. You know, track that organized journey while hitting the clock like you're playing speed chess. It's, you know, a novelist is all the time in the world. I can have 2 guys talking for 30 pages, sitting on a park bench. My only requirement is that it's really interesting dialogue. You do that in a movie, they'll kill you. I mean, you write dialogue in a movie like you're sitting naked on a hot stove and you can't get off until this guy finishes what he's going to say. You know, it's all about, you got to trust the actors, you got to trust the faces, the visuality. You don't have time for anything. I'll never forget, I wrote a movie, Mad Dog and Glory. It's kind of a weird movie. And it was Robert De Niro and Bill Murray and Uma Thurman. And I hadn't quite understood that yet. And so I wrote this dialogue in the script, and it looked lovely on the page. And now we're all sitting around a long conference table in some hotel in Chicago. And De Niro was a crime scene photographer who was really an aspiring art photographer. And he tells this story about going out one night at 3 a.m. in the morning downtown Chicago, and all of a sudden he sees a deer right in front of City Hall. Like, what the hell? You know, and he says, I remember this deer, and it had antlers. It was like a chandelier. And so De Niro starts talking this, you know, this deathless dialogue that I wrote. And at some point he goes, and then I saw this deer and it had antlers. Am I still talking to you? It's like you're watching a play, and if the screenwriter has his way, you know, the character, it's like bang, bang, bang. But it's almost like, okay, bang, bang, bang. And then the characters go over and he goes, but wait, you know. It's like watching a long day's journey into night. You can't wait for the Tyrones to go to sleep. You know, and Mary Toronto, oh shit, it's 5, we're gonna miss dinner. You know, so I mean, it's a different medium, and whatever I learned in one, I had to unlearn to do the other, and vice versa.
Thank you.
Ask me what time it is, I'll tell you how to build a clock.
I listened to you on Terry Gross, and now I see you in person, and you sound like you do on the radio, which is very energetic and firmly, you know, set in your way, opinionated, clear, okay, clear art. Do you ever play the role of a dramaturge on the screenwriting side? I mean, do they say, have I got the character like you wrote about him, I really enjoyed your writing in the book? And, you know, the role of a dramaturge is to interpret the literal word to the set, right?
You know, I am so embarrassed. I've been writing books for 41 years, and I still don't know what
It's a Shakespearean, okay, it's someone who knows Shakespeare and helps a director set a Shakespearean play authentically.
So in other words, it's a guy who helps interpret in a proper way. And the question is, have I ever acted the role of a dramaturge?
I mean, in effect, they're asking you, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right?
Well,
this character right?
Here's what's happened. If a director says, am I doing this right? And you say, you got it, buddy. You're welcome. If you go up to a director and you say, you know, it really shouldn't be this way, your ass is so fast off that. Last thing you want to do. Directors don't like screen. Only the most insecure director would want a screenwriter there because he doesn't know what he's doing. But any director has to have the Napoleonic will to make an entire army of actors and money men and teamsters and everybody bend to his will. And the last thing he wants is some screenwriter going up there saying, oh, excuse me, but you know when he said, he's going to kick you know, what do you want, Sonny? There's no dramaturge. You could be an eminent author, for example, like you're Cormac McCarthy, and they're filming Blood Meridian, finally, whether that's a terrible idea, I think, but, and you know, they have the eminent Cormac McCarthy up there. At first day, everybody's, oh, Cormac, oh, greatest writer in the world. And if he starts getting critical and starts saying, no, you're getting it wrong, I guarantee you, his ass is at it, Toni Morrison's ass is at it, Shakespeare's ass. It's like a military operation, and you might have a brilliant captain, but you're the general. And you don't want to hear your orders being questioned by anybody. Because all it does is just screw you up, screw everybody up. Especially if somebody overhears you arguing with the director. And actors get very anxious. And once they hear you have a problem, they have a problem. It's chaos. So
I was thinking, though, that you were in a conference room before any filming had started with De Niro. And you were helping to amplify the characters that might be portrayed.
Yeah, at that point, you know, sure, you know, because they're not shooting for a couple of weeks, everybody's just feeling, everybody's, you know, but the minute that the dollars start dropping, you know, or the minute somebody loads that film, you know, it's a whole different game.
No, but I was talking about a story conference on how active you are in that role.
No, but you know what? In the beginning, they welcome you, they adore you, they revere you. Oh, master, you know, how did you do this? It's great. And every once in a while, I've been in a position as a creator of a TV show to walk through a script and really lecture in depth about this character does this, and everybody's going, right, oh, you're a genius, you're a genius. And then the minute I'm gone, everybody does what the hell they want to do. It's just a brutal thing. I mean, maybe theater is different. I don't have any experience in theater. Film is, you know, I'm sorry, this is D-Day. Yes.
I read your books too. I really like your books, and I like The Wanderers. I think it's one of the best books I've ever read, American books. And I wanted to ask you, I read a little bit about your history, and you talked about not wanting to cannibalize yourself anymore, right? When you first wrote that book, I'm going to just assume that you wrote about people you knew.
Well, it was modeled on a time and a place, and people and my friends.
Did they know you were doing that at the time? Were they bought it when it come out?
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't wait for everybody to see it. But the thing is, it was everybody. And it was nobody. Because when I wrote The Wanderers, my first novel, it was about a gang of teenagers in a housing project. You know, right before Vietnam and right before, you know, dope exploded. And it was like the end of like 1964, I guess. And the way I wrote it was, it wasn't accurate, it wasn't a document. It was like if all those kids who were 14 and 64 got together in 1994 and they were 30 years older, and it was a reunion, and it got a little bit too loaded, and they started misremembering and mythologizing events that were, you know. So I wrote it in that spirit that this isn't a docudrama. This is like, you know, this is the Iliad, you know, with grease balls. You know, I never meant like, oh, you're gonna sue me because, like, you know.
Not sue you, but like, you see what you fucking wrote about me? Like, you never got none of that?
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
What the phenomenon usually is, I would write about, in my later books, I'm writing about people living in the projects, or I'm writing about cops. And these are people I spend an awful lot of time, and it's fiction. I'm not writing about them. I'm creating characters that are inspired by them. And I give them the books. What happens is, I go back a month later, and everybody is there, and they're kind of avoiding me. And my first thought is, they hate this. They thought they just wasted their life opening up to me, and I just betrayed who they really are. They didn't read the book and they were embarrassed. And I always say, Lorraine Adams, my wife is here, and this is like the 7th time she's heard me say stuff, so I'm very hinky about, you know, repeating myself. But I mean, I remember once, you know, when Clockers came out, I was very paranoid about being a white guy who took such liberties writing about a 19-year-old black kid dealing crack in the projects. I mean, it was I was scared, and I said, God damn, I gotta do this right. If I don't do this right, you know, then I deserve any kind of shit that comes down on my head. And when the book came out, I had been friends with Toni Morrison, so they sent out galleys to various people, you know, to see what they think of the book. And Toni Morrison got a book. And it's about a couple of weeks later, and I did some like Save the World event, you know, and, you know, Salman Rushdie, of course, was there, and, you know, Boner and whatever, and I see Toni Morrison here, and we've known each other for years. I mean, she hired me to teach theater at Princeton. Not theater. Wow. It's a long story. It's not. I wasn't really teaching theater. But anyways, I see Toni Morrison there. And I'm going, oh shit, she read the book. You know, I'm a cultural pirate. It's just another form, you know, another way the white man rips you off. And, you know, I kind of don't want to go over to her. And when I go over to her, she's acting kind of nervous and like avoidant, and is very short and talking to me. And I'm going, I'm dead. You know, I'm the new face of the Klan. She didn't read the goddamn book, and she was embarrassed. But in my grandiosity, Toni Morrison is going to get the galleys to Clockers, and she's going to go, stop everything! I got to read the Clockers! You know, get me my easy chair! You know, and, you know, I'm sorry, just get 10,000 books coming to her, you know, every day. You know, but in my narcissistic paranoia, I said, oh, she read it instantly. And now I'm here, and she's paying to tell me, you know, what a cracker redneck I am. She just didn't read the book. Yes.
Hi. What I remember, I think about The Wanderers is this guy who wakes up and eats whole wheat toast and honey and a cigarette and coffee for breakfast.
That's Ladies Man.
Oh, that's Ladies Man.
That's a door-to-door salesman.
But the one that really got me, and I read it in Ithaca one summer, was The Breaks. And I used it as a sociology professor to teach a class. And it did great.
Oh, good.
And Freedom Land I got from someone who now works here as a galleys when he worked at a store called Black Oak. But anyway, I want to say that you give me courage because I'm a white Jewish girl.
And what minority would you like to invade?
I'm
going to go after Falun Gong next.
I do a lot of Buddhism, Hinduism, and I'm a yoga teacher, but I'm a criminologist by training and also a sociologist of race and middle class African Americans is who I did my dissertation on. And I went through so much grandiose, narcissistic insanity.
Well, here's the thing that I've discovered, and it took me a little. Everybody has a right to write about anybody they goddamn well please. The only responsibility is to not write to the caricature and the stereotype of the other. But what is storytelling? It's imagining lives of the other. And all you got to do is a good job. Nobody has a right to say you can't write about Asian people. Well, then Asian people can't write about white people. You can't write about gay people. Well, then gay people can't write about straight people. It's tit for tat. Next thing you know, you're writing about your shoelaces. Because that's the only thing that's politically safe to write about. It's bullshit. You know, you just got to empathize and just be a human being imagining another human being's life. You know, and you got to liberate yourself from that. I say it like it's easy, but you know, it was hard for me, but I did it, and I don't feel like anything about that. As long as I'm doing a really good job. You know, if I'm writing about a guy just like you would think that guy in the archetype of that guy would be, then I deserve it. But you know, as long as you're just making a three-dimensional human being, that's what you got to do.
Oh, also thank you for clearing up the dramaturge thing, because this actor I know a tiny bit, Martin Donovan, told me I would make a great dramaturge. I'm like, I don't think so. So now that I know what it is.
I'm originally from Brooklyn, and the rawness of the vernacular really rings true for me. It's just the Wanderers, certainly, all of that. In terms of your characters, I have to think that at some point, once you're rolling, they take on a life of their own. So how do you let them be what they need to be, and at the same time temper them so you have the balance that you're looking for, or don't you do any of that?
You know, you know, some writers will say, and I think it's overly romantic. At some point, the characters are writing me. That's crap. You're the author. You're writing them, and you know, all of a sudden, in the process of writing, and you're inhabiting the character, all of a sudden you realize, as opposed to what you thought in the pre-writing stages, oh, this character's going to this and this and this, and all of a sudden you're writing and you're walking around in that character's shoes. And then all of a sudden you realize once you've got some legs on you with this character, no, this character wouldn't do that. He would do this. And just like actors do the same thing. You know, actors, you know, and this is another thing Lorraine has to endure. Actors, you know, everybody says actors are temperamental and they're vain or they're this or that, they're insecure. But as a writer, once I'm on a movie, I write the script. My characters live on paper. Once the actor starts putting on the character and becomes the character, if he's got a problem with what his character is doing, you got to listen, because he's more the character than you've ever been. His starter's yeast is your words on paper, but he's the living flesh, or she's the living flesh of that character. And if they have an intuitive hunch, as long as it's not vainglorious, you got to listen. And then you might disagree or come to, you know, some meeting compromise, or once you're in the act, once you're in the process, things happen that you didn't anticipate. But that doesn't ever mean like, well, I thought, you know, my character was going to be an anorexic white man and now he's a 500-pound Chinaman. You know, it's not like that, you know, but you will see the character you thought was going to do this. Once you get to know him better, would never do that.
Are you aware of any sensation when you're switching between characters, when there's multiple dialogues going on, and you've got your legs in each of them, and you're making that switch?
It's just, you know, it's not, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I kind of know the guy or the woman, you know, and I know how they talk, and it's a variation on how this guy talks, but they're a different person. I personally don't have any problem with that. I had an interesting example, but I forgot it. Never mind. Yeah.
Based on all your research on NYPD over the years, do you think that NYPD cops are innately different than cops in Cleveland or LA or Bozeman, Montana?
I think cops are cops. I think in the more politically sensitive areas, and cops are going to be a little more on their toes, especially in the advent of the cell phone. Now, in the Eric Garner case, those weren't New York cops, those are Staten Island cops. And I know I'm in the wrong end of the country here to talk about this, but Staten Island is kind of really like an island. And it's technically one of the 5 boroughs, but it might as well be Cleveland.
I'm from Jersey City, so
Okay,
I can relate.
Oh, and believe me, I know Bayonne cops are just like this. Bayonne cops live under a law on their own, among themselves. At least they did in the 80s, because it was and every cop microclimate has their own uniform attitude. So Staten Island cops, yeah, they're going to do that to Eric Garner, and then they're going to get a prosecutor from a cop family who's going to orchestrate the grand jury in such a way that, you know, they say a DA can indict a ham sandwich. Well, this is the opposite. A DA could, you know, could unindict a cop that strangled somebody to death. And you know what? It's Staten Island. Staten Island is Latin for fuck you. You know, Staten Island is a land unto itself. Staten Island, I mean, the cops live in Staten Island. I mean, cops who work the Bronx, they don't live in the Bronx as a rule. They live in Westchester, or, you know, Yonkers, or Long Island. Brooklyn cops, they're not going to live, they don't live in their precincts. I mean, Staten Island cops, this is their turf. And this is how we do it. Cleveland cops, Ferguson, shit, I mean, just the Justice Department hearings. At first, I thought, I was a little more like, oh, wait a minute, about Michael Brown, because there was no videotape. You don't know what happened. The cop did this, the kid did that, he said. And then you start reading about this, that Ferguson, their greatest source of income was basically putting black guys in jail for bogus traffic violations. And they made it into a racist debtor's prison. It's the 3rd highest source of income for that town after sales tax and something else. You know, and it's systematic. They said 98% of the people that were in jail for more than 2 days were black in that town. And the police department was overwhelmingly white. It became black because of white flight, but they wanted to hold white power in that town. And, you know, the racist emails. So what happened that night with Michael Brown and whatever the cops, nobody knows exactly, but there's an atmosphere, an us versus them atmosphere, and an arrogance that could have contributed. But New York City, Manhattan cop, this can happen in no cop, you know, you're going to do community relations. Anytime you feel like cursing, you know, pop a breath mint. You know, we're going to really relate. You know, hello, young future homicide victim. My name is Officer Dan. I'll be sure to pat you down in the next couple of days. I just wanted you to know my name. You know, but nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't care what your training is about taking a breath mint so you don't curse at a guy. You know, which is what was advised to the New York City sensitivity. When stuff goes down, anything can happen. Anything can happen. You know, all that, you know, and I don't want to be too cynical, but look, these are moments of quick violence where it's just, it's sheer adrenaline. And I don't care how many encounter groups you're in. If you're in a situation where you feel you're losing authority, you feel like your life is in danger, anything can happen. Depends on the individual. But some places, that's more okay than other places. And the places that it's more okay with tend not to be in the media limelight, like Ferguson or Cleveland.
Thank you.
How fully realized are your characters and your plot when you sit down to start writing?
Like I said, you know, I have in my head, but once you start writing, things change. They don't change so much that 360, but they might change 90 degrees, you know, as I get to know these characters. Well, I commit myself to these characters during the physical act of writing, but nobody ever goes haywire on me.
What about the plot outline?
I try to have an outline first because my books are kind of big, and I've had experience twice. After I published 3 novels, I wrote 2 novels, and I didn't really understand what the thrust of the book was. There was no moral force driving the story. There was no burning need in me to tell this story. And as a result, both books wind up in my desk, and they remain there. Yeah. I think one last question, because it's getting kind of close to the witch an hour. Yeah.
I saw you at Cody's when you came through for Lush Life, and I was wondering if you could share with everybody here how you got that title and what it came to mean to you. It was such a
This
great
title,
story.
The Whites?
No, Lush Life.
You know, I always have trouble with titles, and I don't know. I just did. I loved the Billy Strayhorn song, but I didn't really pay attention to the lyrics. And I guess I was writing about the violence of gentrification, and you know, and somehow that phrase "lush life" sounded right to me. You know, like all these golden boys and girls going into the golden creamy center of a neighborhood that's traditionally was a cauldron of hell. I mean, the whole point of people coming into Lower East Side was to get out as fast as they could, because it was a nightmare. And now the great-grandchildren would be going in there to go clubbing, and they didn't even realize that they were walking into like a storefront that's now like a hip club, that maybe their great-grandfather was getting arrested in front of this club 100 years ago, you know, because he robbed somebody. And it was kind of like cutting Lush Life for me. It was kind of like, I guess there was an edge of sarcasm about it. But you know, the thing is, I didn't really pay attention to the lyrics. And the song lyrics are basically about women getting hammered in the middle of the day, and it was a very melancholy song. And I didn't know that. It's like, you know, it's like Miss Otis Regrets, you know. Anyways, it's a title, you know, once you get the title. But what do titles mean? I'm going to call my book Catch-22. I don't know what the hell. I'm going to call my book Gone with the Wind. Whatever. You know, and then the book comes out, and everybody goes, ooh, Catch-22, you know, this, that, you know. So, you know, I can call this book Bowser, you know, all it has to do is get good reviews. So, I think it's time to
Sign some books.
sign some
Thank you.
books.